As you guys know, if you have been watching this channel for a while, being an adjuster is honestly no walk in the park. It is a tough job, a rewarding job, but a tough job. One aspect that intimidates a lot of adjusters is working with public adjusters and attorneys.
You in the past, I'm in the future. You mad, they don't salute you.
Thank you so much for clicking on this video. If you're new here, my name is Keela Trishan, and I make videos on lifestyle, insurance, and mental health. I also do vlogs, day in the life in the insurance industry, day in the life with a toddler, all the things. So if that's something that interests you, go on ahead and click that subscribe button below. Be sure to turn on your notifications so you don't miss anything from me. And if you're returning, thank you so much for coming back, and thank you for your support. Okay, so dealing with public adjusters and attorneys. This is something that can be very stressful, especially for a new adjuster that's never had to deal with a public adjuster or attorney. I'll say, in my experience, most that I've come into contact with are usually pretty cool as long as you're cool. I try to keep the line of communication open and all that stuff. And, I just know that I'm probably going to have to work with this person in the future. So I'm able to keep things for the most part copacetic. But you're going to have situations where the public adjuster or attorney is trying to trip you up. May not be on purpose, but like if you don't know what you're doing, it can be very intimidating. So I wanted to kind of do a video where I discuss this and give you guys some tips on navigating claims that have a public adjuster or attorney. So if you're interested, if you are an adjuster that's new, even if you're a seasoned adjuster and you just kind of need some tips to ease your mind, definitely go on ahead and stay tuned. Okay, so the first thing, most important thing probably, is to make sure that you understand the roles of everybody involved. A public adjuster is hired by the policyholder, so they are there to ensure that your insured gets all the benefits of the policy. They're going to be very familiar with policies from multiple insurance companies. They're typically going to ask you for a copy of the insured's full policy, including all endorsements, so they can review and kind of know what angle they can take with the claim. Their job is to maximize the settlement. So you're going to get a letter of representation. If you have not gotten a letter of representation, make sure that you ask for one, because that is a requirement in order for you to speak with that person regarding the customer sensitive information. But basically, they're there just to make sure that the customer gets like everything that's owed to them. With attorneys, I've typically seen them getting involved in like more high-end claims or more complex situations. Their job is basically the same. They come in and you speak to them. They'll send you a letter of representation. They may send you a demand, with an estimate or, what have you. And their jobs too is to make sure that the customer gets all the benefits owed. If there's any gray areas, they want to, kind of figure those out with the insurance company to ensure that their customer is taken care of. Now, both the public adjuster and attorney are going to charge a fee. Whole other situation that has nothing to do with you as the adjuster, that is between the public adjuster, the attorney, and the customer. Your job as a claims adjuster is to work on behalf of the insurance company, but you do want to do a complete investigation. So that means gathering all the facts. You do have full rights to ask for, like if they're asking you for something, you have full rights to ask for proof, documentation, all of that. So you can do a proper investigation and apply the policy as it should be to whatever claim is in front of you. So your job is to work on behalf of the insurance company just to ensure that you are negotiating a fair settlement. Okay, so the second tip in dealing with public adjusters and attorneys is to make sure that you have effective and clear communication. You want to make sure that you're very transparent about everything that's going on in the claim. One thing I like to do is once I get the claim and inspect it, I am talking to the public adjuster on if, they're claiming only dwelling, are they claiming contents, are they claiming loss of use? You want to kind of have that conversation up front, and honestly, best practice is to have these things in writing. And when I say writing, I mean like an actual letter. Now, I've had certain situations where someone will ask me a question on email, and you want to be really careful with like email correspondence, just because when you start putting things in writing, it kind of holds you to it. So if you're not sure about something, do your research first. Like I said, best practice, put it in a letter with policy language, something that is official. So if the file does go to court, if it's discoverable, you kind of have like your standpoint documented. If you are going to respond in email, I recommend being extremely vague. Also, when you're having phone conversations, because that happens too, where sometimes you'll be asked a question on the spot. If you don't know the answer, be upfront with that. Hey, I need to do some additional research. I'm not sure about how that works. Do not commit to anything unless you are ready to stand on it. That is something that gets a lot of adjusters in trouble, agreeing to things that they may not have completely understood, or agreeing to things that may not have been owed on a policy. And once you agree to it and they start doing work on it, then the insurance company is going to be held responsible. So make sure that you're very careful in your communication and be extremely transparent. I typically will, have a conversation with a public adjuster or attorney. I make sure I note my file, and depending on the type of information, I will follow up with them in writing with something official. So, we are both on the same page and we know what's going on. If there is a dispute, or if they didn't understand something, in the way that you thought they did, they'll come back and say, hey, I thought it was this. And then you guys can have that conversation and hash it out. Be very clear about your intentions, be clear about your time frames, all of that, because these are things that could be used against you and make everybody stressed out in the process. So effective and clear communication will save you every time. Okay, so my third tip goes without saying, but this can be very tricky for new adjusters because it's just a lot of information, but you want to know your policy. The biggest way to be able to have the clear communication and to avoid disputes is to know what you are getting yourself into. Know the exclusions of the types of losses that you have, know the benefits, know the endorsements. Endorsements, just kind of quick definition, is usually something that is added or taken away on a policy. So you kind of want to review these once you get the claim to see what endorsements may apply to that particular claim. One of those examples is like replacement costs. Not every policy will cover replacement costs for contents, for example. A lot of times contents are paid at actual cash value. What that means is what the replacement cost value is less depreciation. Some insurance companies are only going to pay the customer actual cash value. If they have an endorsement that says they are entitled to replacement cost value, that means that you pay them actual cash value up front, and then once they show receipts proving that they purchased the item or what have you, you can release the depreciation. That is an endorsement that can apply to a claim if contents are involved. So you want to be very familiar, at least on a surface level, with the types of exclusions and just coverage language that could potentially affect your claim. That's going to be something that I feel like will save you a lot of like stress and grief, later on in the claim, because that's when people start agreeing to things that may not necessarily apply. If something does not apply, then you want to be having that conversation up front. Or if you think something may not apply, you want to kind of put the public adjuster or attorney on notice. Hey, this likely will not apply for this. I'm going to do some additional research, but just want to put you on notice this is a possible exclusion. So just things that you want to discuss up front. And these things really aren't disputable once you confirm them, because again, you're providing them with a copy of the certified policy. So they're going to have a copy of everything. When you are denying something, then you want to put that in writing so they have that information. They can refer back to it in the policy and explain that to their customer. But yes, these are just things that you want to be aware of, like policy language, policy exclusions and stuff when you're having these conversations. So know your stuff. Okay, so my fourth tip is going to be to stay objective. It can be a knee-jerk reaction for the claims adjuster to kind of be suspicious and judgmental when a public adjuster or attorney asks for something in addition to what's already been paid. I would say an example that I have right now is leveling of the concrete under some engineered flooring. I've had a few public adjusters ask for this, and it's something that isn't necessarily owed if there's not damage to it. So in this situation, although I may not think it's owed, I'm also not an expert. Like, I'm a surface level expert, but I am not a flooring expert. So best bet to complete your investigation and make sure that you have a solid reason to deny, not just I think it's not owed, is to send out a expert, like a flooring expert. So that's what I did on this one. I sent out a flooring vendor and they were able to tell me, hey, this may be needed in the future, but as of right now, there's no damage, it's not owed. So that right there makes my denial on that portion more solid. I'm not just jumping to conclusions. I am not, being judgmental. I did the work. I sent out, the proper vendor to take a look and make sure that this is something that's needed. He confirmed that it's not, and so therefore we're not paying for it right now. Now things may change. You want to make sure that you're clear about that too in your denial, that as of right now it's not needed, but if it comes up in the future, we just need documentation to show that it is in fact needed. That's kind of a way to make sure that you settle any disputes. Most insurance companies are going to want to use their own vendors, somebody that is subjective. A lot of people think that when the insurance company sends out vendors, it is to deny something, but it's not that. we need to have like real life information, and we are relying on these experts to give us like real life scenarios. If it's something that's old, if the vendor had came back to me and said, hey, it is actually old because, exhibit A, B, and C, then I would argue, hey, we need to go ahead and pay this because our vendor said that this is needed to, bring the home back to pre-loss, whatever. So just make sure that you're doing the proper investigation, because that is your job. You want to investigate any information that's brought to your attention, because if you are going to deny something, you need to have a leg to stand on, a report, policy language, all of that, so you can have a solid denial. Okay, so my last tip is dealing with negotiations. There's going to come a point where you guys may still be off on the dollar amount, and now you need to negotiate to come to an agreed upon settlement. The biggest thing I think staff adjusters struggle with is just kind of not wanting to bend. And I think it's important to understand that although your job is to protect the insurance company, your job is also to protect the customer and apply the policy language properly. Now, there are some areas of the policy that are black and white, but there are also areas that are gray. And there are times where business decisions are made to help out the customer. At the end of the day, they do pay premiums for this coverage. And so your job is to make sure that while you are applying the policy, there's room to bend in certain situations. I can't really go into that because every insurance company is different and every claim is different. So it all depends on what the situation is and what the issue is at the time. So that's something that you'd want to discuss with your supervisor, discuss with your legal team, things like that, just to make sure that you're not, agreeing to something that is like extra contractual. So when you're negotiating, just kind of come with an open mind. Typically what I do is sometimes I'll have a conversation, sometimes I'll review it on my own. But if it comes down to where I need to have a conversation with the public adjuster, I will kind of like talk to them with their estimate in front of me. And I kind of already have an idea of things that we are not going to pay for, period. But then I also have an idea of things that we may be able to bend on. One thing that comes up a lot is like supervisor hours. Typically, insurance companies are going to have a guideline for supervisor hours, but I guarantee you a lot of times when you get these estimates back, their supervisor hours are going to be way over what the insurance company allots. That's something that we can kind of go back and forth on and discuss depending on the complexity of the job and kind of what's needed. So that's something that I will have a conversation with the public adjuster about, or attorney. Just say, hey, I will likely be able to get this covered, but I can guarantee you I can't get this amount of hours covered, something like that. There's going to be some items that are paid when incurred. Paid when incurred means they're paid once we see that you actually like use the service. I don't really want to give an example of that because, again, it depends on the insurance company, but there are some items where the insurance company will say, this is something that we'll take into consideration, but you have to provide proof that it was actually paid for. So you need to pay for it up front and then we'll reimburse you. Some public adjusters and attorneys will want these things paid for up front. But if your company does not allow that, it's not your job to override that. So that's a conversation that you want to have with the public adjuster or attorney. So just kind of go through the estimate and just see the different things that you may be able to bend on, and make sure that you let them know, especially if it's over your authority, hey, I got to have a conversation with A, B, and C, or I need to send this for review. Make your recommendations in your file. Make sure that you're very clear in your file on the conversation, and then go from there. So yeah, be open-minded in your negotiations, but also be stern in your position, because your job is not to bend to what they want. Your job is to help the customer, and that really is the common goal for you and the public adjuster or attorney. All right, you guys, so that is all that I have for you today. I really hope that, this helped, and like some of these tips kind of put your mind at ease when dealing with, these people on the claims. It can be even stressful for me, although I've been doing it for a while, just because, not every public adjuster or attorney is easy to deal with. And that is something that you kind of have to accept when you're doing a job like this. I just go into each one open-minded. I do the best I can. And, I have open conversations and discussions with my managers and, with those entities, whatever, just to ensure that we come to a resolution so I can move the claim off my desk. If you have questions, if there's anything that you need clarification on or anything like that, definitely go on ahead and leave it in the comments. I'd be more than happy to, answer additional questions, because I know this video kind of, it answers like some surface level stuff, but I'm sure that there's some deeper items that I haven't touched on. So let me know. If you enjoyed this video, definitely go on ahead and give me a thumbs up. It really helps with the YouTube algorithm. If you have made it this far and have not subscribed, please go on ahead and click that subscribe button below. Turn on your notifications so you don't miss anything from me. With that being said, you guys have an amazing day, and I'll see you next time.
You mad, they don't salute you. I need a bag, size is super. They turned your back, it's like I never knew you. Leave that.